Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you guys are doing well there. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great. Appreciate you stopping by as the Miami Heat are in the swing of things as training camp is underway. Hoot, hoot. Over at FAU. Had a delightful day at Miami Heat Media Day. Mentioned this in the other video that I released tonight, but, really appreciate everybody at the Heat for setting that up. We love it. We appreciate it. We're looking forward to another season. And lots of fun. Lots of Goosies galore for you guys along the way. So go check out those interviews. Go check out what the guys had to say. Some fun ones this year. And really, really enjoyed it. Bam and Leroy, man. They should have their own show. Like, they should just kick out old Tobes. Like, those guys hilarious behind the scenes with one another. So we had a blast, man. We had a blast, and had a blast with everybody. Tyler Herro with his scooter, he scooted in. I give Tyler a lot of props, by the way, for coming in there and like right away was like, well, it's like, we're going on live. He goes, I thrive when it's live. I'm like, I love it. Comes in on the scooter. Props to him, wheeling from room to room to do all the videos and whatnot. Very interesting description of what the hell's going on with that ankle, where it was like there's an extra bone in there, and they tried figuring out what the hell happened. And he told us that the injury happened. Remember those viral video, I guess those photos of him and Kalel working out at Miami-Dade? Apparently that was one of the days that this happened. And, really tried to avoid surgery. And the reason, I think there's a couple, obviously, you don't want to miss games, but you got to think another big reason is like, look, Tyler has to know that missing a big chunk or any chunk of games when probably the biggest knock on his career is durability, even though he played, 77 games last year, was super available for the Heat, was that, he can't stay on the court. And that he also hasn't been on the court in some of the Heat's biggest games since his rookie season. His rookie season, he was there all the way through. And the rookie season was interesting because he got hurt, and then the Heat had the COVID break, and he kind of got all the way healthy, never had to deal with a rookie wall. So he comes into the bubble really refreshed. I know he took some shots at that, and people will be like, oh, him and Duncan, bubble boys, they're shooting. Whatever, dude. I mean, like, that was some pristine basketball, and the dude was a teenager, dropping 37 in the conference finals and making Paul Pierce all kinds of angry. But, yeah, look, when you go through playoff series and teams are talking about targeting him on the side of the floor, even though every team does this with a certain matchup on the floor, whether you're facing Luka or whether you're facing Darius Garland or you're facing, whoever. Usually whatever high-scoring guard there is, rare are the guys who are like, oh, they're throttling you two ways. There's not a lot of Drew Holidays anymore that are like, oh, they're going to give you 20, but they're also going to make sure that nobody scores 15 on them. And even those guys get toasted, dude. I mean, look what Jimmy Butler did to Drew Holiday. So I just say all that to know, like, it had to be frustrating for Tyler going into this season, knowing that the extension thing was going to be a thing. And the first news out of the gate is he's not going to be available for whatever period of time. Make it 14 games, make it 20, make it 25. Any of those is going to make people a little squish when it comes to paying the money that we think he's going to go. But I did think his comments today were interesting. So he gave an interview to Anthony Chang and Ira Winderman of the Miami Herald. I think those were the only two writers. I don't know if he also spoke to any of the others, but he spoke to these Ira and Anthony. Great stories by both of them. And Tyler was discussing his extension. And the first thing that was interesting was him talking about, the money about this, because I was under the impression, and I liked this answer from Tyler when he talked about this at the end of last year. You guys remember what he said? He said something to the effect of like, when he was asked, is it a big deal if they get it done or not? And he's like, big deal, no. Like, if it doesn't happen, fine. We can get it done in the summer. It's just going to be more expensive. Now, just by years, that's probably going to be the case. But I took that as this is just me. I didn't feel like I was digging deep on this. Was like, it can be a 3-year max or it could be a 4-year max. And Tyler Herro's max is going to be somewhere in the realm of $50 million a year. But he now has these quotes to the guys, and he's asked about the idea of getting the max. And this is the quote. I'm reading this from Ira's column. It says, "It's not as important as you all think. I will say that. It's not as important to me. Being here is important, but being here at a respectable number, I should say. And for me, I have a number in mind, as I did in my last contract extension. And that's why I didn't accept the max, because I wasn't pressed on it, and I'm not pressed on it now. And I feel like a lot of people have put it on it that it's 50 million or nothing, and it's not that. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I want to be here, as I've said, but it's about respect at the end of the day. So we'll see what happens." Which, again, all of that, by the way, and we'll get to the thing that went viral today. All of that I don't have a problem with him saying. But I do find it interesting that all of a sudden we have a little bit of wiggle room all of a sudden on talking extension numbers. And because the window's going to open on Wednesday and it's all the way through October 20th, he's dealing with an injury that's at the best going to have him back a little before Thanksgiving. And at, maybe more likely December. We don't know. Which none of that's good. And now all of a sudden we're talking negotiation of numbers when, people think that, but why do you think people thought that? It's because you dropped the whole, it's going to be more expensive line. Like how else is somebody supposed to read into that? And there was nothing wrong with it. I think it's a confident, awesome answer that he had in the summer. But how do you think people are going to take that? So Tyler getting his respect. Look, I see some of the numbers that are floating out there, and Tyler's probably at minimum a $40 million a year player with the money people get in the NBA. It's crazy right now. I don't have a grasp of it. When I saw that the Heat got Davion Mitchell for $12 million a year, I was like, wow, that's a pretty damn good deal. Because I was like, what is he going to get? Is he going to get $20 million a year? I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know what a Davion Mitchell even makes anymore. What does your sixth man make anymore? Everybody makes insane money in the NBA. Not hating, just stating the facts. So when you're not a max guy, what is the right answer? You're still making an amazing living, but you want to be treated in some ilk of respect, right? In the words of Tua Tagovailoa, when he was in his negotiations, when I saw Jared Goff, the market is the market, right? And so I think Tyler Herro is just looking at what's going on around here, and this whiskey's getting very watered down as I'm on my 4th video tonight. I'm sure he's thinking to himself, hey, the market is the market. If Brandon Ingram gets $40 million a year, I don't deserve $40 million a year. I get that. I think that's, but just because other organizations are willing to pay it, where the Heat are at, they do have to decide one way or another. All right, are these going to be our building blocks as players? And Tyler Herro is fascinating because he is an electric offensive player. But in a playoff series, yes, people will be targeting him. And then there's questions of can he get kind of phased down these games? Now, will him being on a team that has more weapons around it make it harder to do that? That would be a fascinating thing to see too. We don't really know, especially as the feature guy. In his 2 playoff series with no Jimmy Butler the last 2 years, Bam didn't have a good offensive, performance. Wiggins didn't. Davion, like nobody did. So what do you grade it on? The Boston series, you had Duncan Robinson on a busted back. He had a rookie in Jaime Jaquez Jr. And they had a crazy stint where they hit a lot of threes, and that was a series they lost Jimmy like right beforehand. So I could get his arguments too, but I found it interesting that he let Ira and Anthony know, like, oh no, this whole 50 million thing, not necessarily the case. So I find that interesting. He then, this was the quote that went viral. He said, into regards of this whole thing. Well, first off, he said on a piece of this, he says, "I expect to get something done, but we'll see what happens." He says, "I think they're supposed to meet on Wednesday." I guess regards to his representation and the Miami Heat. So I would imagine the Heat are gonna. I would be curious to see like what is the, are we gonna get any kind of thought on it? Because my thought on it is that I don't think the Heat are gonna go ham on an extension. But I don't know what they're comfortable with either, to be fair. I don't know what the answer is there. Spo talked today and yesterday, Monday and Tuesday, whenever you're watching this. He talked about new chapters, lots of unknown, mystery, kind of. It almost feels like he's got a painting here, or he's got a concept of a painting, and he doesn't know what kind of colors he wants to use on the canvas. And I long term, do the Heat look at Tyler? That Tyler wants to be here, obviously, right? I don't think that any organization's probably going to value Tyler as much as the Heat do currently right now. Zach Lowe has brought up, what does one get for Tyler Herro? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. He said on the extension, "It's important to me." It's from Anthony's article, the Miami Herald. "I've been here 6 years. I feel like I've earned it. I'm not saying what I've earned, but I've earned something. I think I deserve it, and I want to be here ultimately." I vocally said that, which he has. But I do want to say that it's not like a top priority, and I'm not going to hinder this season on getting an extension or not. Quote, "I'm not going to lose my joy," which is funny. He says, "I ain't going to lose my joy. I'm excited to play it. At the end of the day, I have 2 years left of my contract. If we don't get something done, I'm not going to be a problem throughout the organization. I'm happy to be here. And at the end of the day, there are 2 years left. I would love to get something done, like I said, but we'll see what happens." Which is funny. I don't know how the joy thing was asked. Like, I don't know if he was specifically because Tyler can be a repeater when you ask him a question. But so I don't know if he was led with the whole joy thing, like, Tyler, are you going to lose? Will there be a loss of joy if you don't get an extension? Look, there shouldn't be. I don't think this and the Jimmy Butler thing are very similar. First of all, Jimmy Butler wanted one more guaranteed year, but I as I said, I was a guy who was pro paying Jimmy. Okay. So I understood. I did think Jimmy Butler earned to get an extension with the Heat. They did not. Age, missing games, maybe being a bit of a pain in the ass. They were sick of it. Tyler's at a different spot because he's a guy, he's turning 26 this year. He's not turning 36, 37. The Heat are always squeamish about paying older guys. Tyler's age is an interesting question because he's been here for a long time, but he's just entering what is essentially his basketball prime, right? Hell, you got Norman Powell sitting here saying that he's I think a budding star is what he gave a quote today. I think it was to Mark Spears. I haven't read that article yet. But I saw the central tweet on it. I'm glad to know that Tyler Herro is not going to make a stink about it, which is great. He shouldn't, because I just think that goes in a gnarly place if he does. And I think that having the injury kind of makes that a hard place to be. I've always wondered, like with the Jimmy year where he has the big game in Detroit, like what happened between that and the OKC game that ultimately led to him tapping out on the season. I don't know if that was went back to the Heat and they still said no, and then he was like, F it. But yeah, Tyler is gonna have to come back and hit the ground running, I think. And so you gotta ask yourself, so there's no basketball to be played. He's not even in camp. Are the Heat in a position, unless they're getting a huge discount, that they would give Tyler Herro an extension? And I don't know the answer to that, because I don't know, like, what's the realm of, like, wait and see, give an offer that seems insulting to one of your star players, or just being like, hey dude, nothing personal, we just kind of want to see it again and we want to have a successful season. And that to me is just one of the, like, I kind of feel like that's where it's gonna land. Like, if you told me tomorrow Tyler Herro signed a $120 million extension for 3 years, I would be kind of surprised. Now, that's not an awful deal, but I would be kind of surprised. I think that the Heat do really want to see where the chips fall with this season. And see, because look, maybe Bam has another slump season, right? And the Heat are like, you know what? We've tried the Bam thing. We can get a couple of picks for him. We're gonna build around Tyler. Tyler's gonna be our max guy. Um, and maybe that's the direction they go. I'm not saying what's right or wrong. You guys know how I feel about Bam. I think Bam's awesome. But I think, like, I just think that all things are on the table, and I think everybody should be out there to prove themselves this year, right? The Heat could have gone the direction of leaning into Bam and Tyler as cornerstones, and they could have gone harder at adding Kevin Durant. They didn't. So what they need more than anything this year is to pick a direction and to figure out who those building blocks are, and if it's anywhere near good enough to get something done. But look, it's good to know Tyler Herro is handling this with maturity. He's been through enough stuff in his career, whether it be rumors or injuries or slumps or role, any of that stuff, that I don't think this is going to be a big deal. But it sounds to me like a big move off of it's just going to be more expensive to I just want to be respected. That seems like a big move from the summer. Did the injury lead him that way? How could it not? But does that mean even still that the Heat will give an extension without it being super team friendly? Probably not. I gotta think that they want to be like, nope, we're gonna have as little locked into the long term of this team as possible right now. And we'll figure, and if we get the doors blown off us again this year, we finally got to have some serious talks about where we're at. And so unfortunately for these extensions, a lot of the times it's about timing. You know, Bam's extension was, yeah, it was off a year where they got dusted in the first round and all that, but, like, you know, he had been a cornerstone to a multiple finals team and an Eastern Conference Finals team, and he was Jimmy's running mate, and you're never going to play him off the floor. And so who's going to, you know, anybody would have paid him that money. You know, anybody would have paid Bam Adebayo that extension when he got it. Tyler's a more interesting case, and it's a more confounding case. And so that's why these next 3 weeks are going to be interesting. I think they will be. Or it may just be like, we may get an answer right away. We may just be like, oh, well, we don't know. I mean, I don't think Spo's going to speak on it. He may defer, and Pat doesn't talk till the spring, really. So that's going to be, I don't know if we're going to get much clarity on it other than from Tyler, which, you know, will be interesting in its own right.